Appraisals are extremely important in the process of buying and selling real estate, and in this video we're going to explain it in detail. So what is an appraisal? An appraisal is an unbiased opinion of value conducted by an appraiser. So how does that appraiser get thrown in this mix? So now you're going to buy a house, you're going to get a loan on it, and now the lender has to know what the value is so they don't give out too much money for something that isn't worth that. So an appraiser gets picked and no one gets to really choose who that is. They want a legit, unbiased, no conflict of interest person determining the value on the property. So, and that's why no one can choose it, all right? And now how does that value kind of get conducted? Well, an appraiser, they kind of act like a real estate agent. So they're going to find comps, they're going to find year built, try to find similar properties and see, the price on them and, go from there. And if it's for sale by owner, maybe they try to find other for sale by owners in the area. And the same thing if it's not for sale by owner in the same area, size, location, year built, all that stuff. And really try to find a good value on the property. Okay. Now, this is the important part. If it's low, if it appraises low, the deal, it might fall through. We're going to talk about what to do in a little bit when it does come in low. So another important thing is a contingency. So there is an appraisal contingency. So what is that? It protects the buyer if the appraisal comes in low. And that's on the purchase agreement, okay? So, let's just say you have an FHA or maybe even a regular conventional loan you can have on the contract. If it doesn't appraise for the purchase price, the buyer can back out of the contract and keep their earnest money. So it's extremely valuable and it protects the buyer. However, if you do not have a contingent on appraisal, if you're going to buy it, that's an extreme strong offer from the seller's point of view. Okay, so that's one way to look about it. But usually it's extremely recommended to have that appraisal contingency in place because we're going to talk about next what happens if it is low. So now you get the appraisal, it comes in low. Let's just say the purchase price agreement was $300,000 and now it comes in at $280,000. What happens next? This is where the motivation and leverage is extremely crucial. And this is for both sides. Okay? So how can we resolve this low appraisal? Now, the seller can drop the price. The seller can go from $300,000 and go down to $280,000 because the bank's only going to lend out $280,000. Okay? So that's one way to go about it. We're going to talk about leverage in a little bit. Now, the next way is the buyer can pay that difference. That $20,000 gap, the buyer, hey, let's do it. It doesn't bother me. Let's pay that extra difference. Okay? So that's one way. And the last way is, the seller and buyer can meet in the middle or find a common ground. Now let's tie it all back to motivation and leverage. Let's just say that seller has to get out of Dodge. Like they gotta go and they can't put it back on the market. And the buyer has a lot of leverage in that scenario. Maybe like, hey, man, if you don't come down in price, well, let's go find another property and I get to keep my earnest money. So that in that situation, the buyer has the right motivation and leverage, and there's a good chance that seller has to come down in price because if he doesn't, well, who knows if he puts back on the market, maybe he can't, or if he does, is he going to get that same offer? What happened here from the next buyer's point of view? So that's a huge scenario where the buyer has the right motivation leverage. Let's flip that around. Let's just say the buyer, their rent is where they're renting, its lease is ending, school's about to start, they really want this house, and the seller, they have all the leverage, like, you know what, if you don't pay this difference, we'll just wait for the next buyer, we're not in no rush, so that in that situation, the seller has the right motivation and leverage. So that's why it's best to keep your motivation, leverage, kind of quiet, so no one really understands the situation of the other party. Okay, so that's how you can go ahead and negotiate a low appraisal. Now, how much is an appraisal? Well, it's paid by the buyer, okay, and you can pay for it at closing costs. It's a couple $100, and it'll be tacked on your closing costs. Now, this is one strategy that I've seen some sellers do when you're listing like big properties, like very expensive, is the seller can go ahead and get a pre-appraisal just so they know they have a solid game plan. Maybe they get a pre-inspection the seller pays for, they get a pre-appraisal. They really kind of understand where to price this thing and they understand and they're ready for all scenarios to happen. Oh, the inspection, we had a pre-inspection, we know about this problem. Oh, appraisal lower than we thought, so we don't have to deal with that problem. So that's one strategy that a seller can do. Hopefully you learned something about appraisals in this video. If you're on YouTube, subscribe for more. Any other platform, like and follow for more as well. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.